All right, so right now we are getting ready for the XFL, and this is going to be interesting, mainly because, like I said before, if you were old enough to remember back in the year 2000 when the XFL started, it actually garnered a ton of hype. A league that really set itself, or was looking to set itself apart from the NFL and be a competitor almost to the NFL from day one. This was something that Vince McMahon promoted the hell out of. This is something that Vince McMahon was able to build up a whole ton of buzz for. And once we got to the games, things got quite interesting. First and foremost, they did not offer a typical coin toss to decide who gets the ball. So if you go on YouTube and you look up some of these different some of the videos that show you how the rules were in the XFL back when it was in its original iteration, you would see that two players would run for the ball from the 50-yard line, would chase a bouncing ball, or would chase a ball that was placed, I don't know, maybe 10 yards away from them. And and whoever came up with the ball, it was a no holds barred. Whoever came up with the ball that team would win the first possession. Now, needless to say, back then, they didn't necessarily think that thing all the way through, because what happened was that players began to get injured with routine regularity. Players would get hurt chasing down a ball, for the simple fact is because you've got two guys who are going to do anything they can to get in front of that ball, and these guys are basically playing the Oklahoma drill, trying to decide who gets the first possession. Now, it would have been one thing if it was just that, but the XFL actually went bust after one season because it just wasn't good football. It just wasn't the kind of football that people wanted to see. And at the end of the day, if you don't put a product on the field that's viable first and foremost, it's hard to expect that people are going to stick around for that for any seconds. And here we are sitting here 2 days to kickoff, and it's actually provided without being over the top. There are a number of aspects of this game that I'm actually excited to see moving forward. One of those is how they have changed the actual kickoff. Now, with the new rules that they've instated, they've actually changed the kickoff substantially. And the way it works is like this. The ball is kicked off, and when the ball is kicked off, only the kicker and the returner are allowed to actually move. You place the kickoff coverage team at the opposing team's 35-yard line, and the kickoff return team is at their own 30. So you have you have a coverage and a return team that are 5 yards apart, and they're not allowed to move until the ball is caught by the return specialist. And if the ball's not caught, then it takes 3 seconds of the ball having hit the ground if he bobbles it before anyone can move for the ball carrier. And I think that is actually a pretty intuitive way of changing the game so that you don't have the kind of high-speed collisions that you have in the NFL with the kickoff. And, granted, it's not the same as it was in the past because they've moved the kickoff up to the 35-yard line. And now you're seeing mainly these are no plays. These are just 40, 50-yard sprints by coverage teams. So really, the kickoff has become kind of an obsolete play in regards to its usefulness in the NFL. Now, that's not to say that short kicks don't get returned, because they do, and then sometimes you actually do see balls get returned for kickoff for touchdowns. But overall, we're looking at a situation here where you're guaranteeing that the ball is going to get returned because the kickoff is actually happening back of opposite 30-yard line. So they moved it back to the original spot that it was before the NFL moved it up. And so you're now you're going to actually get a kick return, but it's going to play out almost just like a running play, because there's going to actually have to be blocking schemes that are set up because you're 5 yards away. That's about the same distance as an offensive lineman is from linebackers, 4 to 5 yards. So you're going to actually have to set up schemes to try and create holes for the running back on the kickoff, which is interesting. Secondly, I think that the overtime rules are absolutely genius. I think that this is something that the NFL will likely copycat within the next year or two. And it is essentially a shootout overtime. You have a shootout overtime where each team gets 5 attempts to score from the 2-yard line, or score from an extra point positioning. And I believe that's the 2-yard line or the 5-yard line. I'm not exactly sure how they set that up. But you're going to get an opportunity to score 5 times on each side, which means each team will get the equal amount of opportunities to score. And just like a penalty shootout in hockey, just like a penalty shootout in soccer, the team that gets the most points after those five attempts wins. So if you're able to make a few stops on defense, then you can mathematically get to a point where you don't even have to get all 5 of the points or all 5 of the attempts. You actually are able to win the game, before that, which again, I really think that right there could be a huge selling point for the XFL. The simple fact that they're allowing both teams to possess the ball, something that even with its adjusted rules, the NFL still doesn't allow. If a team scores a touchdown, the game is over. Which I guess in a way it does boil down to you getting a chance to possess the ball through your defense. But there's still the argument of, hey, if the Chiefs are able to get the ball on offense, do they beat the New England Patriots a few years ago instead of never being able to get on the field with their offense and just watching Tom Brady go down the field and then score a 2-yard, 3-yard touchdown to win the game? I think that, it solves that problem immediately. And it really does give the game more of an excitement level to it. And also another rule that they have actually changed is they're now allowed, there is no extra point kick. There's no extra point after a touchdown. You get an option, you get one of 3 options. You can either go for 1 point from the 2-yard line, you can go for 2 points from the 5-yard line, or you can actually go for 3 points from the 10-yard line. So you get to actually run a play in order to build or in order to get yourself back in the game. And instead of only being able to add on 2 points at the most, you can now add on 3. I think that is another intuitive way of evolving the game and making it more exciting for the fans and giving the people something to work with in terms of each team never really being out of the game. You can pull yourself back into the game with more options this way. And I think that's really something that does add to the value of the sport as a whole, rather than just some type of gimmick that the XFL is trying to make. I think these are good changes that we'll actually begin to see with the NFL once they're able to put their pride behind them and start taking notes here.